Welcome back. As we promised our dear viewers that one of the main topics of today's episode of The Breakfast Show is going to tackle a very important topic, which is renewable energy. When it comes to energy crisis, this means that Egypt, and not only Egypt, the whole world is facing challenges regarding energy. And the only solution is renewable energy, because when it comes to the solar energy, when it comes to the wind energy, these are resources which will never end. So it can be a real solution to the whole world. Where is Egypt in that? And are we up to the mission to use renewable energy and to have this as a solution of this crisis or this problem? This is going to be our very first topic, and we are very much delighted to have with us an expert to tell us more and shed more light on that important. Professor Dr. Hafiz Salmawy, a professor of energy, Faculty of Engineering, Zagazig University. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Salmawy. Dr. Salmawy, how do you read the importance of starting to use the renewable energy in Egypt in a higher pace? Because as you have witnessed during the past few years, we have been suffering from a shortage of energy. It's not felt nowadays, but how can we avoid any repetition for such incidents?
I would say it's not important, it's a must. Yes, sure. Actually, if we refer to the energy strategy, so the first target of the energy strategy is to diversify the supply mix. Basically, we are relying very much on depletable kind of fuels like natural gas, like oil, and this is a depletable kind of source. We need to resort to some sources which is indepletable, like renewable energy. Furthermore, this is an indigenous resource. This is a resource which is available in Egypt, where we don't need to pay hard currency to import this kind of resources. Although we are very fortunate to have of natural gas which has been found recently, but actually our demand is increasing very rapidly, and even with this large amount, still we either might reach a break even, or even we still in need to import fuel. This is according to strategy 2035. So renewable energy is a kind of a must to resort to an indigenous resource, to diversify the mix, as well as to combat climate change. As you know, by the end of this month, we have COP21, which will be held in Paris, which is a multi-party negotiation regarding climate change. And most probably, in this conference, there will be a kind of commitment for all countries to have a role in.
This was not my common question, but whenever you said so, sir, we all heard about the so-called Kyoto Protocol, and we have heard about the commitments by the large economies of the whole world, like China and like the United States, gas emissions and the so-called commitment. But unfortunately, whenever it comes to what's going to be implemented on the ground, it's just pen and paper. It's just things which, unfortunately, not implemented that efficiently on the ground.
I could say that, literally, as you say, yes, it's part for it, like when the United States decided to withdraw from Kyoto Protocol, which the United States represent 25% of total emissions, which is coming out. China was not a part or wasn't mandated through Kyoto Protocol as being considered as a developed country.
Yes. So, I was just giving an example.
No, I mean, they try to recap what problems happen, because climate change, it has been agreed that climate change is basically a kind of threat which threats all the world and need a kind of collective work. Yes, the developed countries are the main responsible for this. Developing countries still need for substantial quantity of energy. But, as it normally says that they shouldn't be mandated to take kind of commitment, it might impact their economical growth. But if this kind of adopting renewable energy as a part of our energy strategy will fit in achieving that target without a kind of a solid commitment, I would say. But we are committed for renewable energy for different other sources, including climate change. I believe it will help. And Egypt plans to have such kind of aggressive development for its renewable energy resources will give a kind of better image for Egypt. And I believe will release maybe pressure for having commitment as soon as we are taking commitment by ourselves for achieving certain targets.
Yeah. Dr. Salmawy, can you tell us about the steps that should be taken by the Egyptian government in order to increase the usage of the renewable energy in the coming period? And I believe that actually we have been talking about that issue for a while now. Do you believe that real concrete steps were taken into the right direction concerning the renewable energy usage?
Already concrete steps has been taken. First, a law has been issued to encourage investment in renewable energy back in December 2014. This law has defined 4 kind of schemes for developing renewable energy. Also, a prime minister was issued for a feed-in tariff system, which is a system where the grid commits itself to purchase renewable energy at pre-announced price, which is a kind of mechanism very much known internationally, which helped many countries to develop renewable energy, started by Germany. However, there is 68 countries in the world which already adopted, with some different degrees of success for sure. But I believe our system is very promising in success. Actually, a target has been set for the feed-in tariff program for 4,300 megawatt renewable energy, including 2,000 megawatt of medium-sized solar plants, 300 for small-size and top-roof type solar plant, and 2,000 megawatt of wind energy. This is one approach. A second approach, which is competitive bidding, where the grid issue bid request proposals from the developer to produce renewable energy. Already 250 megawatt bid now in the final stage of solicitation.
Solar and wind.
Wind.
I mean, are those the only 2 resources of renewable energy, or we do have others?
No, not the only 2, but the easiest straightforward. Actually, biomass is a third source for renewable energy. There is other sources like waves, but still tidal and wave in a level of I would say
experimental.
Aware
or another.
It's past already as experimental stage, but it's not yet bankable. I mean, because banks to finance it should be well-proven technology. But I would say that biomass also is very much important. But biomass, it has some challenges because it relies on a feedstock. So if you define a price by the end, the feedstock price might change it as you create a market for it. So then you need to retune the tariff. But there is 2 types, which anaerobic digestion and landfill gases, where currently there is a committee is working to develop a feed-in tariff for these 2 types of a biomass, which is very much important kind of technology, because it's not just for renewable energy, but also for disposing garbage and other environmental, I mean, direct and indirect environmental impact for it. But solar and wind, because it's a naturally available, prices of solar or wind will not be changed as you create a market. So this is straightforward. And now technology is developing quite rapidly, 2 directions specifically, and prices coming down. And wind now become competitive to the cost of conventional energy. But we have a challenge for these 2 kinds of energy. Energy is an intermittent type of energy. It's not available all the day around. So you need either to have a storage for this energy during time where this energy is not available, or you build another and to compensate during time when this energy is not available. For example, sun, during night you don't have a sun. You need some sort to generate. So this is bring a kind of challenge even to the grid, transmission grid. Stability of the grid, you have some sources coming time of the day, get out sometimes of the day, specifically for wind. But this is challenges most of the world are working on, and a high rate of diffusion of this renewable energy has been achieved in many countries. resolving and developing technologies for the grid. For example, international interconnection is very much important. In Denmark, 50% of the supply is coming from wind energy. This is why, because Denmark is very well connected with the rest of Europe, so they compensate and balance the grid through this interconnection. So, I mean, this technology is promising, prices going down, start to be competitive. It's a challenging for integration with the grid, but this is being taken, resolved. So the development of this technology taken into consideration these challenges, so we should have a grid ready to accept substantial quantity of renewable energy. Secondly, we should be able to operate very perfectly. We should build plants to balance time where this energy is not available. And also our development should goes hand in hand with the prices, because customer by the end, who will pay? So we should keep prices within a reasonable to the customer. So this is multi-target which should be designed, where the program has been designed for.
Dr. Salmawy, what about the solar energy as well? Egypt is rich in its sun almost all year long. So why we are not using the solar energy as a main source for energy in Egypt?
This is exactly what I was mentioning, that one of them is prices at the beginning. In the past, price of solar energy, either you generate it from a photovoltaics or from thermal.
Yes.
Photovoltaics is a kind of a cell where it converts direct or indirect sun radiation into electricity directly, which is straightforward techniques, which are like a panel, you find it installed on a top of which generate electricity. And also there is concentrators where you concentrate the sun radiation to generate steam, which could be used for generating electricity. The challenge in the past is that this technology was expensive. You was talking at that time about a cost of $20 maybe more per kilowatt hour compared to what you could generate it from a conventional sources at a 5 or 4. Yes, 5 or 4, this is a kind of subsidized, not consideration, environmental impact, but still it's a price. Now prices is going down. Now we talk about level of solar of 10, maybe less, based on the financial scheme, whatever. Still, it's not that reach the break-even approach, I mean. As well as the cost is not just cost of electricity generated from the solar, it's also the balancing for it from a conventional source. So availability of resource, yes, but the cost to have this resource into energy, still for solar challenge. But I believe within 3 to 4 years, this will be very competitive.
My common question to say when we are going to be able to use solar energy with reasonable prices. But in addition to that, as I should seize the opportunity, since we do have a professor of energy, let us tackle even for one question nuclear energy and how Egypt is keen to step forward in this field. At a time, I read it more than once, that Germany, for example, said that by the year 2024, something like that, they are going to get rid of their nuclear plants, or they are not going to use nuclear power, and they are going to resort to renewable energy. Should we go in parallel? I mean, to go or to look for renewable energy and the nuclear energy in the same time according to our circumstances, or we should focus on one type rather than the other?
Basically, this is based on the country strategy. For example, just 2 countries adjacent to each other, Germany and France. Germany decided to ban the renewable energy by 2025, as you mentioned. France expand. They are building now a new nuclear power plant, basically in the Alsace area, close to the border of Germany. So, yeah, it looks strange. Yeah. So it's basically a country strategy. The strategy for Egypt for 2035 is saying diversify. We will not rely on a single source, which is normally being looked is a very much more from security of supply perspective. So renewable energy will play an important role. Still, gas has a role to play. Coal will play a role as you need a kind of a mix of plants. You couldn't build your power system based on a single type of plant like renewable or plant operated by gas like combined cycle or steam. Each type of plant has advantages and limitations and characteristics. So combined cycle power plants, you need gas. If you build steam power plants, you need coal. This is the cheapest source. Renewable, whatever, solar or wind. Nuclear could be an option. The strategy has decided to have a nuclear as a share. Not like that big share. We talk about around less than 10% of the total mix. However, it's a kind of diversification. So if a kind of interruption hasn't happened for one of the sources of supply, you're still safe and secure for this. So banning nuclear or not banning the nuclear depends on the country's strategy. So Germany, yes, adopted this approach. France not. Egypt not. So it depends on the country's strategy, how you look and how the pressure group is working. Yani basically, I was in Germany. I was talking to the Department of Energy. It's basically part of the Ministry of Economics. It's not a separate ministry in Germany. And basically, this was under pressure of the Green Party. So basically, it's a partially politics, partially kind of country strategy where there should be a kind of consensus for. So if the public decided not to have nuclear, okay. If the public decided to have nuclear, okay. So this is a country strategy.
Dr. Salmawy, finally, because we are running out of time, we have been hearing about the Egyptian nuclear projects for years and years, but nothing concrete is taking place on the ground. Do you believe that it's not a very good idea actually to depend on nuclear energy for, as a source for renewable energy, or how do you see that?
I usually don't like to put energy in competition. I don't say nuclear against renewable or coal against nuclear, coal against renewable. Actually, each type of energy is needed by itself because it has a mention, has advantage, has limitation in its application. Yes, the nuclear face a kind of a challenging path. The program started maybe back in the 60s. It hasn't developed because 6-7 war. Then in early 80s, the program was resumed and went very aggressively. However, then Chernobyl accident happened, which make a setback for all nuclear projects around the world. Now we are resuming the nuclear program again. I believe it has been reached a kind of a very advanced stage in negotiation with Russia for building start to build the nuclear center in Daba, which is basically a complex of 4 plants. It's not just one plant, of a total capacity of around 6,000 megawatt, but it will be built on stages. So it depends how things is being developed. Normally, now things become more complicated, specifically for renewable security measures, approved from an international community also, ensuring fuel supply. So as you tackle these issues, you will develop with the program. And I believe we have reached a very advanced stage in this.
Professor Dr. Hafiz Salmawy, Professor of Energy, Faculty of Engineering at the University. Thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And now we'll go to watch this feature story by Dina Yunus, and after that we'll be back to resume the segments of the breakfast show, so stay tuned.